On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, this will probably be the worst show in the history of the show, if I'm being completely honest. First of all, I am under the weather. I have no idea how this happened. I blame being 36 years old. This is 36. This is going to weddings, going to 3-day weddings. I got like a head cold situation, whatever. Secondly, we're leading into a holiday weekend, and you know, there's that. Everybody's juiced up for the holidays. Thirdly, there's nothing really going on in sports outside of baseball, which I will talk about a little bit. I'm wearing my Ohio State baseball jersey. Shout out to the Buckeyes who did we win the College World Series? I didn't see how it ended. I saw I was watching a little bit of LSU Florida game 3. I turned it off when LSU got a big lead. Did Ohio State come back to somehow surprise win that? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, there's not a lot going on in the sports world, TJ. I could try to do an hour on the ACC SEC matchups that were announced today. I don't know what's more boring content, just like me riffing on stream of consciousness bullshit, or me breaking down the ACC SEC. There was like 2.5 good games, I want to say. Duke's going to Arkansas. I saw that. I'm excited about that one. 1994 national championship rematch. People forget that game was played in Charlotte. Duke was playing a national championship in their backyard and lost to Arkansas. There's Carolina, Tennessee. Louisville didn't get a game. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that. But yeah, it is NBA free agency starting this weekend, but that doesn't do us any favors. It hasn't started yet, so we're gonna do a mailbag show. I think we're gonna read your questions, your comments, and address those. But yeah, I do not feel great. I apologize if you're listening to this and I sound more nasally than usual. I'm gonna power through. And you're asking yourself, Mark, why do this? Why do a show at all? Given all the factors that you just laid out, why put yourself through this? Is it the fame? Is it the fortune? Is it the women throwing themselves at your feet? Is this what gets you out of bed every day? Yeah, it does. Like that helps, but I do it for you guys. I do it for the fans. That's why I do it. I am the hardest working man in show business. And with that, by the way, speaking of being the hardest working man in show business, we're taking next week off for the holiday, by the way. So I just wanted to get ahead of that as well. So happy 4th to everybody. We're gonna do a mailbag episode to send you into the weekend. Have some fun. I really do think these turn into the most fun shows when I don't really have much of a plan. There's not a lot going on. It's wild how that works. Hopefully that is the case today. I feel a little loopy. The conditions are right. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what you guys were asking. Let's dive into it and have some fun today. All right, we're going to do a mailbag situation. Hopefully people wrote in some interesting stuff today, and I'll do my best to address it. The one thing going on in the sports world that I have thoughts on that I want to talk about. So I did watch the College World Series a little bit, and shout out to LSU for winning. Like we said they would, TJ. We said
Yep.
we were cheering for that. That is wild that can happen, that they can lose 24-4. And I know the situation. I know, like, when game 2 was slipping away from them, and they realized they weren't going to win, that they were then preparing for game 3. And so, like, the 20-point blowout, or the 20-run, blowout was not indicative of, like, Florida being that much better in that game. It was more of, like, LSU's waving the white flag early and then getting trounced the rest of the way. But the whiplash of LSU losing that much to then beat the shit out of Florida in game 3 was wild. And
Yeah.
And I think it felt like people still cared, which I thought was cool, because I saw, not to be sports TV ratings guy, but that's unfortunately what a lot of these discussions get boiled down to. But I saw, like, this was like the best rated College World Series ever, and people were locked in, and I thought that was awesome, because 2 blowouts, you would think that I know game 1 went to extras, but then you have the 2 blowouts, you would figure that, like, maybe that wouldn't help out, or, like, Florida blowing them out in game 2. But the fact that people were locked in on this, and they seemed it seemed like people were really fired up about the College World Series, and LSU was buying all the Jello shots, and I don't know, man. It's good vibes in Omaha right now. Like,
Yeah.
it's trending upwards.
It certainly helps that a program like LSU is in it just because their baseball fan base is so big. But I think people are finally starting to figure out like this is a really fun tournament, and it kind of hits at the perfect time where sports start to die off a little bit.
Yeah.
Like right now, that it being the top story on this podcast is indicative of the fact that
Right.
nothing else is going on in the world. But it is like a really fun thing. Plus, like you can gamble on it, which always helps these sort of things out. I don't know. It's. I think it's great, and
They should.
I was there, so
So should they capitalize on this and for all the reasons you just said and push it back to where
Another
it
week.
starts like the first. Well, I don't know because then you're starting to get into. I'm sure there's a trickle down effect that like makes this difficult, but yeah, that would be sick if like the first game, like there's still 8 teams left and the actual College World Series always starts like the day after the NBA draft. You wake up on that Friday. The draft is on Thursday. On the Friday morning, you wake up and now we're starting the College World Series.
there's a ripple effect to that too because the beginning of the season starts so early right now for baseball. Like it starts in February, so none of the Northeast teams are very good at college. And UConn is pretty good, but most of the Northeast teams they have to like play random. They have to travel and go play random teams or go to like Hawaii in February because they can't play. And there's nobody local that's good enough to like build an out of conference schedule. That's why a lot of Northeast teams get like shot in the foot because they don't play anybody until Big Ten play or whatever.
that's
It would help if they pushed everything back and it got a little warmer and they could
So
actually
this is
play
a good
home
thing.
games in February.
So I think the reason they did that initially was because obviously these guys are student athletes,
Yeah.
TJ, and that's very important that these guys get their degrees and that
They didn't come to play school.
They didn't come to So I imagine the reason they started early was that you have to fit the season within like the school calendar, but with where we're at with college sports now, I say blow up the whole city. You know,
Who cares?
Who cares anymore? We have an opportunity to make some dollar bills here. Like we can't let
TV ratings inevitably rule all. If they could prove that it works on television,
we can't let convenience for these kids get in the way of making money. We have to squeeze as much money as we can out of this. And I think starting at the day after the NBA draft would be awesome because I do think there's some momentum there, and it would be nice to listen. The SEC. Never mind the SEC, the South in general, which is obviously mostly SEC, but there's some schools, ACC, and some Pac-12 schools I think are good at baseball, right? Arizona State comes to mind. They have an awesome baseball program, don't they? Arizona State. UC Irvine, I want to say, has a good baseball program. But anyway, the Southern schools don't want to probably shake it up because they're dominant, and the SEC is dominant in this thing every year. And they have 2 SEC schools, just like it's football, playing for the College World Series championship. But I think it might be better for the whole sport if you do like allow. I think like even the SEC dominance at some point you need. I don't know. This is just probably Big Ten homer in me talking, but I think like even if I was an SEC guy, TJ, I would want like the Big Ten to have like really good baseball programs, so then we could kick the shit out of them as well, and then that's how you flex your dominance. But the way the schedule's set up right now, what hope do the Northern schools have? But you give them hope and then take it away from them and still kick their ass. And I think that's how you grow the game too. Is like you make it so like guys like me that went to Ohio State and I got my Ohio State baseball jersey. I don't think our baseball we're decent. I think like we're pretty competitive, but then I think it's ultimately like because we're beating up on like other Northern schools. Then I bet when we play like the Southern. So I think open it up, make it like a truly national deal. That would be awesome as well. And I think like maybe that's where we're headed. I don't know.
it doesn't make sense that the Big Ten is generally like a 1 or 2 bid league in baseball. That just doesn't compute with the amount of money that's involved.
Yeah, we got to get
it was 2 teams this year, Maryland and Iowa.
We got to get the Big Ten to get a lot of bids into this thing and then lose early in the tournament. That's
right.
the Big
That's
Ten.
the Big Ten way, right?
Yeah. What the hell's going on? Why are we not getting more bids into this thing? Speaking of baseball, the one thing that I am locked in on right now in the world of sports is Shohei Ohtani. This man is so. Last night he pitches. He throws like 6 1/3, I think. Has 10 strikeouts. Hits 2 home runs. Leaves the game from pitching standpoint because he broke his fingernail, which I usually would rip on a little bit and say you broke your fingernail, that's why you're not pitching. But I guess if it's in your pitching hand and that's what gives you the torque on throwing these, off-speed pitches. It probably hurts like a bitch to have the seams of the ball like hit your fingernail over and over. But anyway, he comes out from pitching because he hurt his fingernail, stays in the game as a hitter, immediately hits a home run. It is this dude is playing baseball at a level that I have a lot of different thoughts, TJ, and all of them are just basically like he's really fucking good. But is he the GOAT? He's the GOAT, right? Like I think like if you say Shohei Ohtani is the best baseball player of all time, it feels insane to say that about like the thing about baseball is it's been obviously around for like 400 years, and so with basketball it's a little easier to just throw out GOAT labels because if we're being completely honest, like until Jordan came along, like I don't really think people care that much about GOAT, and I think like that was and now with like the evolution of athletes and all that sort of thing, it's like a little easier to stack guys up, and you could just throw out wild shit. You got Brandon Miller saying that Paul George is his GOAT, and like GOAT in basketball, you just like toss it around for some reason, and maybe it's because baseball media just takes themselves so freaking seriously, but I feel like I will toss around GOAT as flagrantly as I feel like in basketball, and I really don't care. Like it makes no difference to me. People say Kobe's the GOAT, and I honestly don't even get that upset. I'm like, I don't think so, but live your truth, whatever. With baseball, it feels like there's more historical weight to it, that like you can't just be out in these streets saying people are the GOAT, TJ, because the guy, like none of us saw Babe Ruth play, right? Like none of us, we don't have a ton of footage. Like you and I and people of our generation aren't exactly grinding through Ted Williams tape to see if he's the greatest hitter ever. Or is like Ichiro, if he would have come over a little sooner, would he have, So I think like when you toss GOAT around, you get caught up if you're younger than like 80 years old and you're talking about baseball players. I think you're opening the door for older people to just dunk on you and tell you don't know shit, and like that's at least where I come from. Like when I think of like who the greatest, like because I remember this when Barry Bonds was hitting home runs every single time he's stepping up to the plate, and he's wearing his military armor, and he's getting walked. He got intentionally walked with the bases loaded, and everyone watching was like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. They definitely should have done that. I remember at the time thinking Barry Bonds was the GOAT. I didn't say this out loud because, I was like, I'm probably just some dipshit kid and I don't know what I'm talking about. But like, it was insane watching Barry Bonds just smoking home run after home run after home run. But even then, I'm like, I don't know. Is he the... I'm too scared to say it because like some of these old heads are going to be like, you don't know shit, young kid. Sit down and let me tell you about Lou Gehrig and why he, Anyway, I say all that to say, Shohei Ohtani has to be the GOAT. I don't understand. This dude is doing shit that when you would hear stories about Babe Ruth pitching, that to me, like, so Babe Ruth is obviously like the aura, the guy of baseball. Like they made a movie about him called The Sandlot. You should check it out. Those of you who haven't seen it. It's a documentary, I think. But he's the guy he's Paul Bunyan. He's Paul Bunyan of baseball. You could have told me at some point when I was like 10 years old that Babe Ruth wasn't even real and that he's just like some fucking legend that like has been talked about. So, but with that, part of his legend was that not only did he smoke home runs, and not only was he this hitter that would call his shot and then hit it over, hit everything out of the park, he also pitched. And that blew my mind and everyone else's mind because that doesn't happen in baseball, and you don't have a guy that does both. And for Shohei Ohtani in 2023 to be one of the best pitchers in baseball and the best hitter in baseball at the same time is insane. And I don't know. I think like this is the kind of baseball player that I've been waiting my whole life to see. He is here. I find myself now, if the Angels are playing, I try to watch them in LA. It's very, very difficult because of TV rights, and the MLB has like the worst fucking. I pay money out the ass for this MLB at bat app so I can watch the Cubs, and then like half the games in the league are blacked out. Living in LA, I don't really fully understand it. But he's must see TV. He's absolutely must see TV, and he's doing shit that like never mind has never been done before. If you told anybody that it was even possible,
Yeah.
that it makes your head spin. And I don't know. I can't get enough of it. And it's a weird thing because I think there's like two different conversations that people have about Shohei. It's like the people that are watching, or there's like the kind of doing what I'm doing, where you're like kind of running out of words to say how good he is, and you're just like, this is incredible. But then there's like the other part that people think that this is like an indictment on baseball, because why is this guy not a bigger star? Why is he not, he should be, this is all we should be talking about. I shouldn't be opening up the show saying there's nothing to talk about. I should be saying like, this is the story in sports right now, in all of sports. If the Super Bowl was happening in 2 weeks, some people would argue we should still be talking about Shohei Ohtani, because this is like once in a lifetime shit that's going on here.
Yeah.
And I find that part fascinating, because baseball, I think baseball, and I'm, the college basketball brain part of me, like maybe there's some part of that like when I watch baseball and I see discussions about baseball and talk about like, is baseball dying, that sort of thing. Like I think baseball is doing just fine right now. I think baseball is in a great spot, and I think the people that talk about baseball as dying or like not what it used to be, I think they are viewing it through a different lens. They're trying to view it through the lens of like, I'll put it this way. I think there's one sport in this country. There's one sport. It's football. Football is the sport. Football is the sport that matters. Football is the sport that people care about. Football is the one sport where there kind of is no off season, where if you and I did a show today and we were breaking down what we think about the Seahawks secondary, going into next season in late June, there would be an audience for that, and people would be really, really jazzed up to talk about that. That's the one sport. Everything else is a niche sport, and I think that wasn't necessarily always the case. I think there was like more, once upon a time, there was more respect to the seasons, where if you were a sports fan, you watch football, then it's basketball season, you watch basketball, then it's baseball season, you watch baseball. And now in this era we're in, it feels like people have identified they're like one or two sports. And at a time when you can consume, if you love English Premier League, you can consume nothing but English Premier League content 24/7. You don't have to pretend to like baseball or pretend to like, college softball or like whatever else is being put in front of your face. You go out and find whatever you want. But with that, I think there's like, there's a crab in the bucket mentality with like the second sports, where like people shit all over college basketball because like NBA, like, I don't know, we've talked about that, like the divide between NBA and college. But I think there's like something going on with baseball too, where like people almost have like NBA brains, where they watch baseball and they're like, why is Shohei Ohtani not as big of a star as LeBron James? And it's because baseball just works differently. And that doesn't mean that baseball, because in baseball offseason, we're not like breaking down trade possibilities and plugging shit into trade machines and talking about it. That doesn't mean the sport isn't healthy. That just means it's like different. And I don't know, I find it fascinating, because I think baseball is like, the people that try to talk about stuff dying, like do it through a lens of like trying to go back to the 90s, when like nothing's ever going to go back to like what it was. It's like everything has evolved. And I think, I don't know, that's my way of saying, I think like a lot of sports are in very good spots, and it's really weird because this is the time of year where people talk about how every sport is dying. And as a college basketball guy, has to hear that over and over and over again. And then as we talked about on the last show, and then like you see ratings and it's like, actually a lot of people are watching this shit. I think people are locked in on baseball. And I think the Shohei Ohtani deal, whether you're into it or not, I don't think like because the entire country doesn't have Ohtani mania, that means that baseball is dead. I think it just means like people consume it differently, but the people that are watching have a reverence for it, right?
Yeah, I think he's a once in a generation player. And as far as him being the GOAT, I think only time can decide that sort of thing. Like he's minus 1,000 to win MVP before July 1st, which is like literally unheard of probably in any sport ever. This early into the way, like before the halfway point of the season, to be the odds on, like no doubt about it, he would have to get injured today and not play another game to not win MVP is crazy. And we'll see like if he can stick to that pace. I don't think it's realistic for him to stick to this pace. Babe Ruth stopped pitching after a few years and focused on hitting because he was better at that, which Shohei is the same sort of way. I think he'll pitch until he can't anymore. And you brought up Ichiro, which is a good point, because the reason why I think Ichiro is not in the GOAT conversation of baseball is because he played a couple years in Japan, and he would have had the most hits ever probably in baseball had he played his whole career here, but he didn't, so he doesn't. So when they look back on and try and argue Shohei is the GOAT, they're going to be like, well, he didn't have enough American stats. Like, if it's going to be like another what if situation. I think he should be more of like I think it should be more of a Shohei mania. I think him playing for the Angels doesn't help his case, even though the Angels are like sneaky good this season. But that was the thing that he like said up front when he came to America. I still don't know if we have the full story on that, but he wouldn't even interview with any of the teams that played spring training in Tampa. So my theory on it is that his manager or something heard like the Florida guy news stories and was like scared off of having Shohei being exposed to Florida. So he was like, we're not even going to talk to any of those. So he wouldn't interview with the Yankees or the Mets or the Orioles or the Red Sox. He wouldn't talk to any team that played.
His agent had Google alerts set up for Florida. And he was horrified by what he saw.
Yeah. So they only ever talked to teams that played in the Arizona Spring Training League, all the West Coast and some of the Central teams. I think that if he was playing in New York and like in theory or in a city that wins championships, because the Yankees don't win anything anymore, then he probably would be a global or more of an American superstar, because he is a global superstar. I guess he has the Japanese fan base, but he's not nearly as revered in America as he probably should be, I think.
I guess for me, I don't care how marketable he is, and I feel that way about Jokic.
I think he's extremely marketable. That's the thing.
Yeah. But I just like don't like your Q skill. Like go fucking hang out with Darren Rovell if you care about that shit. I don't care about athletes' Q score. I care about how good you are and how fun it is to watch you. And he's the most fun I've ever had watching a baseball player ever in my life. And I don't need to. I like everybody else. I grew up watching baseball. I was obsessed with it. I still watch a ton of baseball. Like this guy is. I lived through Sosa McGuire. I thought that would never be topped, and then Barry Bonds' race. I mean, I remember waking up. Like SportsCenter used to like cut in to Barry Bonds at bats, and like I remember like going to bed early, but then like waking up because the Giants were about to play, and like I wanted to see. I would just watch ESPN and they're just going through like WNBA highlights, but then they would like cut in and be like, all right, now we go out to, and it's like 11:30 PM, on the East Coast. And, we're watching Barry Bonds just smoking in McCovey Cove. Shohei Ohtani is doing stuff that like I said, I've been waiting my whole life for this, because this is, and I guess like this is fascinating to me too, is because I haven't really heard people talk, like the baseball people that know a way more about this stuff than I do. Part of the reason you appreciate him so much is that this is a once in a lifetime deal. But I guess my question is, as a basketball guy, when you see a guy like this come along, it's the exact opposite. And everybody's like, we should be more like him. Like this is the Steph Curry story, is that Steph taught everybody that 3 is worth more than 2. And then now every dipshit kid on every playground in this country is jacking up 3s from their hip because they want to be like Steph. And that, like we talked about that with Jokic, like our big sloppy fat boys around the world are going to be trying to play Jokic basketball. I don't really hear baseball people talking about that with Ohtani. I don't really hear like, and I find that interesting. Like, why isn't this now a breakthrough? Because like, for me, the terrible analogy, but just stick with me. Just like this is what this show is. It's a terrible analogy.
That's a good name for a show. Terrible analogies.
Or you watch the Little League World Series. I do, at least. And there's always the kid who's the best hitter on the team. He's also the best pitcher on the team, TJ. He's also because he's the kid that hit puberty before everyone else. But that becomes true like even up to high school baseball. Now, I went to high school with Lance Lynn, and he's a pitcher on the White Sox. Maybe people have heard of this man. He's a great interview, hilarious. We played basketball together. Somewhere along the line, he's like, I'm going to quit playing basketball so I can focus on baseball. And I said, you're an idiot. That's going to take you nowhere. And then, he made the major leagues, and it definitely took him somewhere. When Lance Lynn was in high school, he was, and again, I understand it's high school baseball. I understand it's Central Indiana. I went to every single baseball game that our high school played their senior year. They went undefeated. They were a fucking juggernaut. Tucker Barnhart, catcher for the Cubs, was on the team. Drew Storm was on the team. He pitched in the majors for a while. I remember watching Lance Lynn, TJ, bomb like one home run a game. Like this dude, if you would have told me in that moment he's going to play in the majors, but he's not going to pitch, do you see the vision? I'd be like, absolutely. Like, I honestly thought he might have a better shot at making the majors as a first baseman because he was such a good hitter. This dude would just I don't know how else to explain. He was one of the best hitters as a high school senior that and he was obviously a dominant pitcher but he was that guy to me. Like, he was the best hitter and best pitcher on the team, and he was great. So fast forward to watching Lance Lynn playing for the St. Louis Cardinals, not 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, and this is back when pitchers in the National League still hit. This man would get fastballs right down the dick, like right over the heart of the plate, and he would look like he's never held a bat before in his life. And I remember watching this, getting so frustrated, like, Lance, you have it in you to just be, why can you not bomb these home runs? So I just bring up that example to say, TJ, that, like, this is something that I think people growing up in baseball, like, this is not an uncommon thing. Like, at the high school level, even sometimes at the college level, you see guys that can pitch and hit. But for some reason, like in the majors, they do get specialized. And I guess I understand why it happened up and before Ohtani, because everybody thought that you couldn't do this. So my question is now, why is this not the breakthrough? Why is Shohei Ohtani not the example that, like, if you are a 12-year-old kid that wants to pitch and hit, there is a path for you. Now, you're probably not going to be as good as Ohtani is. Is that it? Like, the only way that anybody's going to allow this to happen is you have to do it at a level that Ohtani's doing both at, and otherwise it's kind of not worth the risk. If you're not like a MVP caliber hitter and ace caliber pitcher, then we don't really.
Yeah, I think it's just like baseball is such, like every sport, it's so competitive coming up, and at some point they just make you choose. But like Paul Skeens, who was LSU's ace through this College World Series, played at Air Force before LSU, and he crushed home runs there.
Right.
And then when he came over to LSU, they just made him. They're like, all right, that's enough of hitting. Like, you're good. Like, you're good enough to pitch and go to the majors that way. And once you make the majors, you don't have to hit. So, like, let's stop worrying about hitting. And at some point, they just, like, make that decision for every pitching prospect. And maybe this is part of the switch. I think that there are some more dual or like dual threat players coming up through the college and through the minor league system. But it's just, at some point, it's like, hey, you're, a good pitcher, but you're not the best pitcher.
Yeah.
And you're a okay hitter, but you're not a great hitter. So let's drop hitting and focus on getting that extra inch in pitching. But Shohei's just the best hitter and, like, still very, very good at pitching, which is just, like, usually it doesn't work out where you're the best hitter in the world and also can pitch at a sub-3 ERA.
I can't believe this is. It's just it blows my mind, and it makes me so happy because I've been waiting my whole life to see a guy like this. I'm a fan of a National League baseball team, and I am still upset that the DH entered the National League. I still want to see pitchers hit, and Shohei Ohtani is that's my old man take. As I get older and become more comfortable with having old man takes, that was something that was an old man take I had when I was like 10 years old. I hate the DH, and I love the idea of pitchers. I love the idea of everybody having to play both ways. You have to be able to hit, and you have to be able to play the field. And it's not going to happen. They're going to keep the DH around, but I think that's why Ohtani makes me so happy too, is because this is the dream. Pitchers who could hit was like the coolest thing ever. Like, that was.
Yeah.
I remember, like, it wasn't even that long ago. Jake Arrieta and Madison Bumgarner. Yeah. Were pitching against each other. Jake Arrieta went yard off Madison Bumgarner in his first at bat in a playoff game, I think, and it was so fucking cool. And it was like, I don't. And now
it's cool. It's cool the 5% of the time that they get hits, the 95% of the time that they swing out of their shoes or just like.
But that's the point, TJ, is that they swing out of their. It's not that they're bad; it's that they don't even practice it. Like, make these people practice it. That's what I don't understand. It's like you by taking away the DH, you just awarded all the lazy idiots that, like, didn't want to put in the work. Yeah. When really, I don't know. You're right. Like, it was bad. Like, the reason they took it away is like, who wants to watch this? And I'm like, why is that my fault? Like, why is that? It's the blame is on the pitchers. Like, why don't they try harder? And then Shohei Ohtani comes along and he's. Anyway, that's talking baseball. I freaking love Ohtani, and I hope I hope people are paying attention. I guess I don't know. I think they are.
I started checking back into the Yankees briefly for the first time this year recently, and immediately regretted it. They're so fucking bad.
They're bad.
They're not even bad. Like, they're a bunch of games above 500, but as far as like Yankee standard, they're bad, and they're just annoying, man. They're just like the coaching mistakes every single game. It's so aggravating. The Cubs are kind of on the opposite side, where they're like sneaky good, but in a horrible division, so it makes them look better than they actually are.
Yeah, the Cubs lose a lot of close games, and we're the only team in the Central that has a plus run differential right now. But I think we're third place as of right now. Yeah, and we're under 500. But
you guys have hope. The Yankees, it's like, yeah, we've seen this story before.
Yeah,
Giancarlo Stanton's getting paid $110 million to have like a 170 OPS.
Yeah, we're trending different directions. Like the Yankees, you thought there's an expectation that you would be more competitive. The Cubs have been garbage for the last few years, and now it's just nice to have a competitive baseball team out there. But anyway, that was my baseball talk. The Mark Titus Show hydrates with BodyArmor and rides with Team BodyArmor. BodyArmor is the official hydration partner of the Mark Titus Show. We have been drinking BodyArmor from the beginning because they have the best products, best flavors, best ingredients, and best athlete partners. No artificial stuff, no fake ingredients, real hydration with electrolytes, potassium, vitamins, on and on and on. This stuff is so freaking good. They have BodyArmor in the office at Barstool, and like I said last time, and I'll say this time, they stocked the fridge with it. It's gone in a split second. People cannot get enough of this stuff. It is so freaking good. You need to get on the BodyArmor wave. Some of the top athletes in the world drink this all over the competition. I'm talking Trae Young, Christian McCaffrey, Alex Morgan, Donovan Mitchell, Ronald Acuna, Sabrina Ionescu. My favorite flavor right now is the strawberry banana, which BodyArmor has done some genius work with the strawberry banana. They've taken strawberry. I love strawberry flavored stuff. It's so freaking good. You name the product, if it's strawberry flavored, I'm probably consuming it. Same is true of banana. So you know what BodyArmor did? They took both of those, they put them together, they made the strawberry banana, which is what I have in my hand right now. It is so freaking good. I drink it at the office. I drink it at the gym. I drink it on the golf course. When we're hungover, it doesn't matter. I drink it all the time. All BodyArmor, all the time. Buy BodyArmor now on Amazon. Try the strawberry banana. It's pretty good. You'll like it. Let's read some emails. Or what do we call these? Instagram comments? Twitter?
Viewer mailbag, I think is what I called them yesterday. Let me pull up the post. The only other thing that I wanted to mention was any thoughts on Wheel of Fortune naming Ryan Seacrest their next host?
I think he's perfect. I think Ryan Seacrest, when I think of Wheel of Fortune and how it's like something you just put on. And I think of a host. If I'm sitting in a hotel room and I don't necessarily have anything I want to watch on television, but I just want the TV to be on so I don't feel alone. The voice I just feel like is on my television is probably Ryan Seacrest. I feel like Ryan Seacrest. It's like Ryan Seacrest and Maria Menounos just seem to always be on like every I don't know what's in their contract, but like Maria Menounos. I'm pumping gas at the gas station and I see her face and she's like, here are the top 5 stories in pop culture today. And then you go to the movie and like before the preview starts, she's there. And I feel that way about Ryan Seacrest. It's like he's just everywhere. He's somehow allowed to be on every network at all times. He's allowed to do everything. And so for that reason, I think it's a good hire because like that's what Wheel of Fortune is too. I don't know what network is Wheel of Fortune on. It's like syndicated. Depends on the market, right?
For me at least, it's right after Jeopardy.
Yeah, but it's like some I think in some markets that's like CBS. It's the CBS
it's
channel. Some it's ABC. Some it's NBC. I don't think So
people were making a big like some people were like outraged about this. I'm like, do people ride for Wheel of Fortune like that? That is so far down on the list of my favorite game shows to watch.
No, I fuck with Jeopardy. Jeopardy is worth having thoughts on the host. Like Jeopardy, I think you should get upset if they pick the wrong host and they're putting Ken in the driver's seat, and I think that's the right call. But Wheel of Fortune, I can't imagine. Yeah, I do. It's pointless. Pat Sajak is kind of. He's funny. He's good.
Yeah.
I think his legacy is secure. Although people don't seem to like him on Twitter, right? Like, doesn't he? I don't know. I feel like every so often I see him. I don't follow him. I don't pay that much attention, but for some reason I feel like Pat Sajak will be trending on Twitter like every 4 months, and then you click on it and he's just like, I don't know.
He's got one of the probably the most comfy lives ever doing that show. Because as far as I know, he doesn't do anything else, and they shoot that show on like a seasonal rotation. So they'll shoot for like a week and a half or 2 weeks, and they'll shoot like the next 6 months of episodes, and then they'll come back and then do it again like a couple times a year, and that's all. That's it. That's the work.
Vanna White has the job, man. She just turns especially when she didn't even have to turn the tiles anymore. She just touches them, you know? Like that's the she somehow, like, AI came along and took her job, and she fought back and was like, "No, you still need me to touch these squares. You still need me to." Yeah, she went from flipping them over. Dude, you're probably not even old enough to remember when they had to, like, they would literally turn the things around. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I'm a very one of my favorite rabbit holes is like game show fails on YouTube. So
you've seen okay.
I've seen all the
serious, because I do
classics.
feel like that was like, I do feel like your kids your age, as us old people say.
Oh yeah,
might not
no,
remember.
I'm a game show aficionado, so I respect the classics.
Did you ever see the Press Your Luck?
Yeah, the documentary about the guy that cheated on him.
Yeah.
Because they were using like a 14-step pattern that was like super easy to like count out in your head. It's like, I don't know why, but some of these game shows are very easily beatable. Like Wheel of Fortune is one that they just have to typecast the dumbest contestants in the world on, because every single final Jeopardy puzzle uses the same like 7 letters, and they never guess the letters correctly. Because they give you RSTLNE, and then they give you 3 consonants and a vowel. Watch Wheel of Fortune after listening to this episode. I guarantee you that they guess like C, D, H, and A. It's like every single episode they guess that. And then there's always like a Z or a P or a J in the final puzzle. And it's like, oh, how was I supposed to know? I don't know. Do some research before you go on television.
Yeah, Wheel of Fortune gets the dumbest people, and Jeopardy gets the smartest people.
Yes.
And that is true.
Pisses me off. Should be
Wasn't
my
money. Wasn't there a similar documentary about Price is Right? Like some guy like memorized like every price of everything.
There was one person on Price is Right that got the Showcase Showdown price exact down to like the dollar. It was like 51,374, and he got it bang on. So they immediately assumed that he was cheating. I don't think that there was ever like a conclusive way to prove that, other than the fact that he had like been to shows in the past or something, which is not supposed to be allowed. That show, that's my number one that I want to go on one day, is Price is Right, because I feel like I'm very, very good at that for some reason, just from having watched so many episodes, that I think that I would crush on it. Yeah. And the way that they selectively choose, it's not random who gets to come on down and play on that show, which I find super interesting. Every single person before they walk in gets interviewed.
Yeah, I know people that went to it, and one person I know went to it to support someone that they were told was going to be on the show. So like, yeah, I think you're right, because I think they were ultimately lied to. I know someone who went to the show. They told me I was going because my buddy had been told he's going to be a contestant on this day. And he got like a traveling party of 2 or 3 people to come and like be in the crowd, because they always they want you turning around and like talking to your family or friends. So my friend was a friend of the guy that was going to be on the show, and then they got there and they just never called his name.
No.
And they come home and I was like, "How was it? Like, tell me everything." And they're like, "They didn't even call his name. It didn't even like we were bamboozled." And I don't know what happened.
Devastated.
So I don't know if
I would tell everyone I know, then I'd be like, dude, that would be crushing for my ego.
I remember my long lost 3rd, 4th, 5th uncle. My mom listens to the show, and this show, and she'll call me and be like, Ron was not he was not, you were related. You met him many times, but whatever. I remember getting the text from mom. She's like, your Uncle Ron's going to be on the Price is Right today, and I was like, oh my god, it's happening. And I don't think he never got off contestants row. He never did. But yeah, I didn't know
it's
that.
The opportunity to say $1,
$2. What about that? That would be what would.
You would have to hold me back from punching that person in the face if they $2 made after I $1 the last person.
I think
there would be fights.
The guy who $1 prematurely, and then the last guy hits him with the $2. That would be.
That show's the best, man. That or Deal or No Deal back in the day.
Deal or No Deal is good. We should do game shows, dude. Like I didn't know this about you.
I fucking love game shows.
I was a Game Show Network guy. I you just throw it on. You watch whatever's on there. You watch the
Lingo.
Who was
the balls?
Richard Dawson smooching the that was on Righteous Gemstones this week. The Family Feud. I think that's why that was on my mind. There's Richard Dawson just kissing ladies, just like
times were different,
dude. He just comes out and he's just smooching every woman. Get someone at Barstool to make a TikTok about that. That's what we got to get them on that. Like fellas, what do? You're on Family Feud, and this man just comes out and kisses your wife live on national television.
You could either kiss him back or fight him. Those are the only options.
You could fight him, but then you blow your chance to win. What was the grand prize back then? Like $10,000.
It was probably just like a washing machine or something.
A washing machine.
Wheel of Fortune used to have like the prize row where you just pointed at stuff and you're like, I'll take the statue of the Dalmatian, and it was like $600.
I knew I became out of touch and way too Hollywood when I would watch Price is Right, and I would say to myself, I don't even want that shit, you know.
Yeah. It was like I found those shows. I had like bronchitis in like 5th grade or something, so I was home for like a week and a half, and I just watched like Price is Right during the day, then fell asleep, woke up at like 11 p.m. and watched Conan O'Brien at night, and I was like, these are the best shows on TV, and I've never seen either of them before.
I just remember this was within the last few years when I would watch Price is Right, and they'd just be like, we're playing the what's the mountain climber game, the Yodeler,
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger, that's what it's called, or Plinko. And what are we playing for? A new car, and then the thing opens up and it's like a Toyota Yaris.
Yeah.
And instead of me being like, oh sick, they're playing for a car, I'm like, I wouldn't even want that. I wouldn't want to win that.
It's like a Toyota Yaris, but it doesn't have power windows or air conditioning somehow, and you have to pay for insurance on it, and the cash payout instead is like $600.
You know what? Add that to the PMT I did where we're going through signs you're getting old or whatever. Add that to the list. Is you watch Price is Right, and instead of just being like, oh sick, dude, you get to go to Cancun on a free trip, you're going through your head of like all the bullshit that's attached to this. Of like, I'm sure I'm flying coach in the last row and I got to pay for my own upgrade. And I'm sure you're going to put me at the,
Well, you got to get yourself to LA to fly there. So if you came here from Nebraska, now you got to go back.
Well, that's a sign you're old, is that you go through all that stuff in your head. I thought of another sign. We do a mailbag episode. We literally read 0. All
right, we're out of time.
0. I thought of another sign I was old today. Inventing stuff that already exists. That's something I'm really good at. Or that's not a sign I'm old. That might just be something I'm. Never mind. Let's move on. I have a knack for like inventing shit that like already exists, and I say to people like, why don't you know what they should do is there should be something that, and then they're like, that dude that was invented in 1971, and I'm like, really? Or I name stuff that already exists. Like I did this on a podcast once. I was going through like my favorite horse names that I could come up with. I'll never forget this because it was just like a holy shit, I'm very old. I can't believe like I'm this stupid. And one of the horse names that I came up with where I was like, I think this would be an awesome horse name. I'll have another. And then immediately like all these people started writing into the show and they were like, you fucking dumbass, I'll have another won a Kentucky Derby. That was the name of a horse that won a Kentucky Derby.
So correct. Point proven. Great name.
Point proven. Anyway, something happened this morning where I said that to somebody. I was just like, man, they should. You know what they should do? And they're like, yeah, that actually exists, dude. I was like, damn.
We had like an idea contest in high school, and my $1 million idea was flavored air as a diet. It's like an appetite suppressant. So it'd be like a spray bottle with like cheeseburger scented calorie free air that you just like put that on your tongue and it gives you like the taste of having food. And somebody was like, "That's kind of like just what vaping is, right?"
It's vaping,
I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, yeah, I guess you're right."
Yeah, that's a bummer when you just realize that everything's already been invented.
Yeah,
You're out
if
of
you're just
ideas.
craving a cheeseburger and you could just vape it for no calories.
Yeah. What it was, I was taking my dog on a walk this morning, and he was sniffing a lot of dogs' buttholes, and like being very friendly because he's the man.
As one does.
Moses is the man. I got to bring him to the Chicago office. He's incredible. But someone he bumps into someone else's dog, and the lady's like, long story short, just like someone goes, I wonder if he thinks that this dog is his mother, and then I said out loud, I was like, that could be a funny children's book. Like, Are You My Mother? Like, it's like a guy. And as I said it, like vaguely, I was like, "That. Why does that feel so familiar?" And then someone was just like, "You dumbass, that's a Dr. Seuss. That's literally a Dr. Seuss." I was like, "Should that be a children's book?" Is like a dog,
children's book.
a dog is sniffing every other dog's ass because he's trying to find his mom or find his way home, and they're like, "Homeward Bound, Are You My Mother?" by Dr. Seuss. I was like, "God damn it, dude! Anyway, let's read some other thoughts so people don't have to hear me ramble about.
We should start a podcast called "Pardon My Take." That'd be a good name for a podcast. I said this off air, but I knew this was going to be this type of episode because they did quarterback rankings and a Taco Bell menu Mount Rushmore today because they had nothing else to talk about. I was like, oh, we might be in trouble.
Dude, it's literally like just this week because NBA free agency will happen. Like when Damian Lillard makes his decision, which he's basically just kind of. It's a weird deal because like we're waiting for NBA free agency to start, but the big domino we're waiting to fall is Damian Lillard, who is not a free agent, but he's waiting to see what the Blazers do in free agency to then decide whether he's going to submit his trade request. It's all very the NBA is very confusing, but I guess that's what we're all waiting on, and as long as that's not happening, we the College World Series should be going on right now. Play game 4.
Yeah. The College World Series should extend to July 4th, and then the final game has Joey Chestnut eating hot dogs in center field.
or excuse me, or MLB should have their midseason deal that like the NBA is trying to do to make the regular season matter more. This should be the MLB is in between the last like basically July 4th we have the hot dog eating contest like you said, so we're good there. But between like the NBA draft and July 4th, there should be some sort of MLB tournament or event or something that gets everybody locked in, and it gets you something. I don't know what that is. Just automatic bid to the playoffs or something.
Yeah.
It gets you one of the wild card spots.
Oh, there we go. Cody just texted us the NBA dropped their collective bargaining agreement. It's 600 pages, so we could talk about that on the back half of the show.
I'm going to go through and read what I disagree with.
Yeah.
We're going to go through each percentage of T-shirt sales that the players get. I thought that was a little low for me. I thought the players should have got a little bit more out of it. Amazing. No, I knew it was bad too when I saw my guys like Rob Doster and Terrence Oglesby and John Fanta doing shows about the ACC, SEC scheduling of the and then I'm looking at the schedule and I was like, oh, are we getting some sick matchups? I wonder who Louisville plays, and then Louisville's not even in it.
That's crazy.
Louisville didn't even get it. That sucks, dude. I know Louisville was bad last year, but come on, respect the brand. What are we doing? Louisville doesn't even get an ACC SEC game. Unbelievable. Also, like why is Virginia not playing at Auburn? Auburn hates Virginia because of the Ty Jerome double dribble that wasn't called, and the Kyle Guy foul, which was a foul. Kyle Guy was fouled. I don't think that was a bad call. It was just a terrible time to make the call. Ty Jerome did double dribble, and he got away with it. And Auburn fans, don't forget, make Virginia come play at Auburn. Like, are we trying to make this thing pop or what? I missed the Big Ten ACC Challenge already. That's all I thought. When I saw the ACC, SEC matchups announced, I was like, you know what would have been better is if the Big Ten was involved somehow. We got to get the Big Ten SEC Challenge or Big Ten. Yep. There just aren't enough SEC programs that pop in basketball, I think, to make it work. They're getting better, but they just don't have the cachet. Like it doesn't jump out at you when you see them on a schedule. I think that's the issue.
Yeah. You have to take the Indiana Kentuckys with the Rutgers Vanderbilts. of the world.
Yeah, that's the problem. Whereas, like even in that ACC, when there's there are teams that aren't as good, you can still talk yourself into them being good. That we've seen. Yeah, Louisville sucks, but it's Louisville. It's a brand that Syracuse. That's a brand that will always.
It pops off the page.
It pops off the page, and I think that's the problem. Anyway, all right, we're almost an hour into the show. Let's get to
These first ones are from Instagram. What's this guy's name? Darian Vidati asked, how many Purdue titles would it take in the next 20 years for Indiana fans to stop using banners in every argument?
That's a great question. And the next 20, so when does the argument become? I personally think if Purdue wins one, it's on. I think it's because I think for the Indiana point of view. So Purdue has the upper hand on Indiana not only in Big Ten championships but in head-to-head wins. Like Purdue has Indiana cleared in a lot of stuff other than the NCAA tournament. Now the Purdue point of view with Indiana's NCAA tournament success is that all of this happened a million years ago. All your banners that you're so proud of are dusty. You haven't made a Final Four since 2002. We don't care about any of that stuff. But then Indiana has the ultimate trump card, which is at least we have them. Dusty banners are better than no banners, right? So I think if Purdue, for me, I honestly think if they win one, and my dad tries to bring that bullshit into conversations where he's like, we got 5, they got 1. I think I gotta sit him down and be like, Dad, I don't think you can. I think you gotta come at a different angle here. I think if Purdue wins one in the modern era, and Indiana hasn't won one since 1987, I think Purdue's officially on top. Now, if you're an Indiana fan, you take solace in knowing that this is not going to happen. Like it's simply not going to happen for Purdue ever. But in this hypothetical, I think it takes one. Is that too? Do you think they have to? I don't think they have to pass them, TJ. I don't think they have to get 6. I think if Purdue gets 1, now if like Indiana goes to a few Final Fours, Indiana rattles off like the next 20 years, Indiana has Gonzaga's last 20 years. Where they're ranked, not even last 20 years. They have like a Gonzaga type run where they make a couple Final Fours. They're ranked number 1. They're winning games all the time. They're getting recruits. And then Purdue wins one. Like I think that might make it a little different. But if Indiana continues to like flame out in Sweet 16s and never actually makes a Final Four, and then Purdue wins a national championship,
I think it's fairly similar to like the Yankees Red Sox rivalry argument. So it was like the Yankees would flaunt at the time 26 rings over and over again, which I don't love personally as a Yankees fan, especially the way the last 15 years have gone. And then the Red Sox won in 2004, and then the Red Sox won in 2007, and then obviously the Red Sox won in 2018, and they got another one before that. Like, so the Red Sox now clearly have the upper hand in the grand scheme of things because they've dominated this millennium from the Yankees.
Right.
I think it's just more so. I don't think like they are dusty banners, much like 80% of the Yankees rings are from like the dead ball era, and that's like an issue. And so I think, yeah, like you're saying, if Purdue takes 1, then they have 1 in the last 1 year, and Purdue does, or Indiana has 0 in the last 30, 35, 40?
Yeah, 36.
So I think, yeah.
37. It would be 37. If Purdue wins it next year, Indiana would have no titles in the last 37 years.
I think if you win 1, and then like you said, you have the head-to-head matchups too. Like there's not much Indiana can say. Like, yeah, you can like brag about your old banners, but what percentage of the fan base even saw those championships happen?
I think it boils down to this, TJ. I think arguments between fan bases to determine who has the upper hand in a rivalry, I really do think it's the who's more mad test. Like if they're just arguing with each other, who's going to come across as more triggered and more upset and more mad? And right now, Indiana fans are less mad. Like when they argue with Purdue fans, even if Purdue is number 1 in the country and Zach Edey wins National Player of the Year, and all especially now that Indiana swept them last year. But I really do think that Indiana fans are calm, cool, and collected. If IU fans and Purdue fans are arguing about who has a better program, I think Purdue fans get more worked up. They get more triggered. They're the ones that are like, yeah, and IU fans are like throwing their sunglasses on, throwing up peace signs, and they're like, Banners, bitch, and then they speed away, and that's how they're handling it. I think if Purdue wins the title this year, that gets flipped on its head. And I think Indiana fans are extremely triggered, and they spend a lot of energy and time explaining to you how they're not actually triggered. I think that's what, and Purdue fans are just basking in the glory of being national champs. I think it's one. I think it's one national championship, and Purdue has the upper hand.
Yep. And I think that it's still pretty close, even without the championships. But obviously, the championships is banners fly forever, as they say. Sam on Instagram asked, "Hey Mark, what are your thoughts on having the top 2 or 3 university teams from Canada get a bid into the NCAA tournament? I think a team like Carleton/Ottawa could give us a team a run for their money as a 7 or 11 seed."
I actually love this idea. I'm trying to think of how it could realistically happen. I think with the NCAA, so on the one hand, we're going to need the NCAA to dissolve. We got to get the NCAA out of here because it's in the name. It's right there in the name. It's National Collegiate Athletic Association, and we can't have there's
just change it to an I.
Yeah, but I guess the NBA has Canadian teams. They're the National Basketball Association, so you know. I don't. There's no world where like the NCAA is going to let Canadian teams get into the mix. So it's going to have to be like sort of an independent type deal where the schools are kind of. It's more of the Wild West. Now the issue there is that when the NCAA does dissolve and break up, the power vacuum is not going to exist for more than 4 seconds, and the SEC and the Big Ten are both going to swoop in and gobble up all the power and like consolidate, and maybe they each make their own 2 leagues. And what, you know, like it's not, there's not a world where I actually think in that situation, the chances of getting Canadian teams playing American teams is actually worse than it is now. So I don't think this is realistically possible, unfortunately. I don't see how it's realistically possible in terms of like, it's possible in terms of logistics. It's definitely possible in that regard. Like, of course, to have the Canadian teams fly to the sites and play, that's possible. It all checks out there. I don't see a world where like the American teams are going to go for it. But as a fan, I would freaking love it. Yeah, because that's we're closing in pretty soon. We're gonna be getting offseason the international tour season, TJ, and that's when the college basketball teams go on these trips. And the Carleton Ravens, I believe, are the team that always beats somebody from America, and then that's always like a headline in like August that pops up in college basketball circles, is that some college basketball team we thought might be decent just lost to a Canadian team. Are they in trouble? And it always gets my attention. I'm always I eyeball emoji that. I'm like, huh, wow, how about that? So I would love to see it happen. I don't think it will, but how can we fix that? I don't know.
What would the big hang up be with having like a 6-team, like the way the Ivy League is set up, but have a bunch of Canadian teams enter the NCAA?
Just get one conference, like let the Canadian champion get in.
Yeah, you don't think that the NCAA would ever consider having like a group of Canadian teams be under their legislation? I feel like that's not the craziest thing I've ever heard.
No, that's what I think. I think that has a far higher likelihood than, you know, fast forward 20 years, 25 years from now, and the NCAA is dead, but now the SEC has 35 teams and the Big Ten has 35 teams, and they both run their own. They're both like the de facto NCAAs on their own. It's, you know, it's like an American League, National League type deal with baseball 100 years ago. Or an ABA NBA situation. You know, that's what the I don't think like the SEC or the Big Ten are letting, if they throw their big national tournament, they're not letting the Canadian teams in. Whereas I think that, yeah, it's far more likely the NCAA does. It could happen. I just don't think it would. I don't think there's any incentive for the NCAA. You know,
yeah.
I don't think there's. I
don't the game.
But I would love to see it. They should get their own conference. Like let one Canadian team. Because but then national champion, how do you deal with that? You know, like you say this team was the national champion,
champion,
the North America. You just call it world. It's just immediately. That's sick. That is sick. That's cooler than national champion. Being able to say you're world champion.
Yeah.
I
The
think
world
let the
champion Connecticut Huskies.
I see it. I see it. It's gonna work this way, TJ. Let the Canadian national champion play the American national champion in a one-off exhibition. That Ryan Reynolds, he's dual citizen, right? And he's throwing his money around in sports right now. Let the Ryan Reynolds Invitational, where the Canadian champion plays the American champion, and he puts like an insane amount of his own money on the line for the winner. Let's do it that way. I think
that would probably go over well for the Canadian teams. How many years would it take before a Canadian team
wins
beat this year's UConn team?
No, maybe the UConn guys are getting ready for the draft though. Maybe you can't like that. Maybe they're like they opt out. Maybe they're like
you do it the day after that. You do it during this week.
Yeah, do it the day after the draft. Yeah,
the college basketball world championship.
Yeah, how about that?
But none of the college players that got drafted are allowed to play because they don't have eligibility anymore.
What else? Are there any more? Did we just get two?
Somebody asked thoughts on college basketball in the state of Illinois now that you're moving there, more specifically in Chicago.
This is just gut reaction on hierarchy of Illinois programs. Illinois is number one. Illinois, Brett Underwood has rejuvenated the program. The fans are annoying as shit, and that's a good thing. I think that they still need to prove it a little bit. I think there's still like I don't think the success is quite caught up with the swagger and the bravado that Illinois has. But the fact that Illinois basketball has some bravado is good, and I like that because Illinois is a program that mattered for most of my life, and it's exciting to see the fans be excited, even though they are annoying as hell. They're annoying. Are they the most annoying fans in the Big Ten, would you say?
Illinois?
Maryland's up there, I guess, but Maryland almost doesn't count because they're not Big Ten, and they know it.
I think Michigan State is for football, I think.
Michigan State
fans are fairly annoying, but they haven't had a ton to stand on.
Michigan State football is a good one. Illinois, as far as basketball, Illinois basketball is. I feel like a lot of people might say Indiana, but
yeah, I would say Indiana, but we own Indiana, so it's hard to say them.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Michigan State is.
We own Purdue too.
I don't think Wisconsin basketball fans are that annoying, honestly.
No,
I don't have a problem with them.
Yeah, Illinois probably has it then.
Michigan State, I don't.
Penn State doesn't have basketball fans.
I don't have a problem with Michigan State fans because they're good. They're like the one, we talked about that when Izzo was doing some Izzo magic in this March. They're the one program in the Big Ten that has any shot at actually winning a national championship. So
yeah,
if you're cocky as a Michigan State basketball fan, I mean, what am I gonna say? I'm like,
right.
Yeah, you're kind of right.
Michigan.
Yeah, but Michigan fans have turned on Juwan Howard. They're kind of winning me over now. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot more when Juwan Howard struck a man, and I got to play I got the moral high ground where I was like, you're a scumbag university for employing this coach, and yada. And now I think they've caught up where they're like, why are we employing this coach? Like the NBA draft happens, and Michigan gets 2 first-round picks. They have Hunter Dickinson on the team. Like last year, they had 2 first-round picks and a first-team All-American, and they were that bad.
Michigan fans are so annoying because they have a holier-than-thou attitude, and there's so many of them on the East Coast. It's insane. Anytime, if something's going on at MSG that's Big Ten related, or they visit for every sport. I used to work cameras for live sporting events in college. It was a Thursday night softball game at Rutgers, women's softball. And there was probably 25 Rutgers fans there, mostly families of the players, I'm sure. There was 200 Michigan fans there on a Thursday at our softball facility, which doesn't have bleachers. So they brought their own chairs and stuff. They did an on-field autograph signing after the game with merch sales. Michigan's fan base is insane, and they're so annoying because
this is what I try to tell people when the Ohio State-Michigan football game comes around, and they're like, I hate both of those schools. And listen, I'm not here to tell you should like Ohio State. I'm not here to make any excuses for our fan base. Our fan base can stink. If you go to a game in the shoe wearing the wrong colors, it can be a miserable experience. I understand all of these things. Ohio State fans can be extremely, extremely annoying. I'll just say this, TJ. Michigan fans are not your friends. Like, if like, don't get it twisted. That in a battle of two fan bases that a neutral observer hates equally, just know this, that one of the fan bases doesn't completely despise your existence in the way that Michigan fans do. They do not look down your nose at you, Like one fan base will shotgun beers with you in the parking lot, and the other one will look at you and be like, "Get a job. Like, why are you not?" You would never be able to intern at my dad's law firm, Like, that's what they say. The Ohio State fans are annoying, but at least we're salt of the earth people, TJ. Where at least we're like, we can be a good hang in the right circumstances. Michigan fans are just, yeah. And but as far as basketball goes, like, I think Juwan Howard stinking up the joint paired with Michigan football actually beating Ohio State and making the playoff and winning the Big Ten in the last couple of years. I think Michigan basketball fans are actually very palatable these days. I think, and that kind of pisses me off, because there was a stretch where I did hate Michigan basketball, but I think they're kind of humbled now, and they're just like, yeah, our coach stinks, we want him fired, and we're a football school anyway, and that's frustrating.
I like that this whole rant is, the question was, what do you think of college basketball teams in Illinois?
Oh, I completely forgot we were going to ask a question. Loyola's in trouble right now. I think DePaul, I got to get a lay of the land. Chicago State didn't hire me. I was bitter about it for a while. I let bygones be bygones, and I would like to see Chicago be state again. I would love to make Chicago State again and do what I can to help. I think if I can, you know what I'm going to do? But that's not going to answer the question. Let me answer the question first, then I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Illinois is the only school. Illinois State, Ryan Pedon's the coach there. He's former Ohio State assistant. He just got hired I think this will be his second year. Yeah, he's about to enter his second year. So maybe I'll go down to where's Illinois State? Is that Bloomington? That's Normal. It's Normal, Illinois, I believe. Is that Normal? What's Bloomington? Dude, I'm gonna be an Illinois resident. Is that true?
Normal.
Is Chicago in Illinois? Is that true?
I could look it up.
Let me fact check that. Northwestern, I'll say this, has gotten to a point where they it's no longer embarrassing to lose to Northwestern, so that's good. But like, Northwestern still has some work to do in terms of like actually getting a seat at the table, at the big boy table, and feeling like they belong at the adult table. But now, like, when you lose to Northwestern, it's no longer embarrassing. It happens, But I don't. Northwestern basketball still doesn't do it for me, and I think that's probably just like ingrained in my brain from so many years of watching Big Ten basketball. And like, honestly, they probably deserve more respect than I'm giving them, but I can't do it. I see Northwestern basketball and I just kind of laugh to myself. But if teams do lose to Northwestern, I no longer feel the urge to clown them.
Yep.
So there you go. Did I answer the question? What I was going to say is, speaking of Illinois and sports in Illinois, I'm going to personally guarantee on this show right now, TJ, that within 3 years, 5 years, strike that, 5 years, maybe 6 years, I got to work on the time frame. I'm going to personally guarantee a championship for the city of Chicago professional team. I'm going to personally guarantee that the Chicago Bears, the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Cubs, the Chicago Blackhawks, or the Chicago White Sox will win. Is that all of them? Will win.
Sky?
Chicago Sky. Throw them in there. Chicago Fire. MLS Cup champion. I will personally... Chicago sports, they're in a rough spot right now. But I'm personally going to guarantee that there will be a championship won. This happened when I moved to LA. The Lakers hadn't won in a while. The Dodgers hadn't won in forever. I moved out here and bingo, bango, bongo. The Rams come back. They win a title. Like LA went on a little run there. I'm bringing good vibes to the city of Chicago, and I will personally deliver a championship within 5 years. That's my guarantee. I don't know who it's going to be, but within 5 years, one of those franchises is going to win a title, and I'll be at the parade. And I should be at the parade with the team. I'm not going to ask for that, but it'll happen. We're going to win a title. Chicago is going to be title town. That's a guarantee.
What do you think the most likely team of that group is to win one?
Probably the Blackhawks, right? Aren't they getting the number one pick?
Yeah,
Isn't
but
that guy supposed to be good?
He's
It's gonna
supposed to be
take a while.
generational. I don't really know how hockey works if one guy can really turn a whole
How
franchise around
many?
like that.
How
Like the
many?
Oilers are good now.
How many generational players can exist in one generation?
Well, they're all generational prospects.
Oh my
Only
god.
one of them gets to be the generational player.
The recruiting services are about to go from stars to like
Yeah.
generations. It's gonna be like he's a
0.5 out of one
yeah,
generation.
one generation. He's a 0.5 out of one generation. Yeah. Most likely to do it. It's Justin Fields and the Bears. I think. I think. It has,
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think the Bears are that many moves away. And it sounds hilarious to say, but I think if they get a new stadium, which is easy,
yeah.
and then they'll
Well,
start getting
football.
better players there.
Jokes aside, like I obviously I think Justin Fields is better than the average football fan does because I'm obviously biased with the Ohio State connection, but football does feel like it's not that difficult to turn stuff around. You can go from shitty to because the parity that exists in the NFL, you do have to hit on the quarterback. So like if Justin Fields does in fact stink, that's going to be tough. But like it's a little easier to. I mean, for God's sakes, the Bengals are in the Super Bowl.
Right.
That's
I don't think Justin Fields stinks either. I think
if you
he's
would
awesome.
if you would have said that about the Bengals 5 years before they made the Super Bowl, everyone would have laughed just as much as they're laughing hearing you and I say the Bears, you know?
Right.
And then 5 years later they were playing the Super Bowl. So maybe the Bears, yeah. Or one of the it could be one of the baseball teams because baseball is like you just get in the playoffs and let shit happen, you know? You get some wild shit that happens in the playoffs. The best
Yeah,
team
this
doesn't
year's
always
going to be
win.
wild in baseball. There's going to be a lot of teams in baseball this year that haven't been in the playoffs in a long time that have a chance at it. Angels, Diamondbacks are all right. Cubs are back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sneaky teams this year.
Yeah. Baseball does
Reds
feel
have
that
won
way,
a
though.
bunch of games in a row.
How many of those San Francisco Giants World Series were they actually the best team?
I don't think
Zero?
maybe the last one they were, but they definitely snuck up. I think they went last to first at least once.
Are the Cardinals ever the best team when they win it? They just always so like why can't the Sox or Cubs do that where they're
Yeah.
just they just kind of get
Those
it. Like,
Giants teams might have been my favorite non-Yankees baseball teams ever. I had
yeah.
remember their closer Brian Wilson, the guy with like the
Oh, yeah.
big jet black beard.
Yeah.
I dressed as him for Halloween one of the years that they won it. I love that guy. He fell off the face of the earth. That was like my favorite baseball player.
Baseball needs if you want to quote unquote save baseball, I think we need to get back to some insane closers. Do we have insane closers still?
Yeah, because we had like Papelbon back then was a
Yeah,
maniac.
Papelbon was
I mean,
amazing.
it's just like the NBA benefits off of tomfoolery more than any other sport right now.
Yeah.
There's so much tomfoolery in the NBA. We need some of that injected into baseball to get people to watch.
And it's weird because baseball and hockey, they have some of the dumbest human beings on earth playing those two sports,
Yeah.
where they are just a constant fountain of tomfoolery. That is
Yeah.
that is all that it, like if you actually are in a baseball or hockey locker room, it's just constant chaos of that should be leaking more. We should be hearing about the off field and off ice shit more often, but I don't know. They don't do that. John Rocker's the OG insane closer, by the way. That's who Kenny Powers is apparently based on, was
Makes sense.
John Rocker, who is that guy. Anything else? One or two more?
Trill Rafferty on Twitter said, "Will an upperclassman ever win National Player of the Year and be a lotto pick in the same year again?"
Okay, so I think name, image, likeness could help with that. I think you get a deal. I'm trying to think it through. Like, what would have to happen for that to be the case? You get a deal like the 07 Florida team where they came back, where like a guy like Joakim Noah comes back to Florida because his dad was professional tennis player and he had some money and he was like, I'm not in any hurry to go to the NBA. I think you get something like that, and I think like the generations we're seeing in basketball now are like, I find this fascinating, and this is going to turn into a much longer answer than he probably bargained for. But if you go back and like look at guys in the NBA, a study needs to be done on this. Guys in the NBA in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. I'm going to guess that the average household income of those NBA players when they were growing up is far, far less than the average household income of today's NBA players, which is to say that today's NBA players, your Steph Currys, your Klay Thompsons, you see that more in the NBA now, where it's like guys that I don't know if privilege is the right word, but like the guys that are succeeding in basketball are no longer the dudes that are like the junkyard dog types that are like are playing out on the playgrounds and earning their chops that way by just playing pickup basketball and being the toughest dude on the block and and then kind of progressing in basketball that way. Like that was kind of the stereotypical way that guys became. You hear legends of like Isaiah Thomas in Chicago and like Larry Bird, like growing up in Indiana, and like he played in fucking the middle of nowhere, but like still, like there was just that was how guys got good, was just playing older dudes and that whole thing. Where now guys who are getting good at basketball and the 5-star recruits are dudes that are put into these like basketball academies and are like, getting the red carpet rolled out for them at a very young age, and they can get training that the dudes never had back in the day. And a lot of that is because I think they're sons of guys who played professionally in the NBA or overseas or whatever. We're seeing a lot more of that. We're seeing second, third, fourth generation type guys that are playing. And the reason I bring that up is I think that is the kind of player that it is going to take, is a guy who is the son of, say, I don't know, like a LeBron James, for example. He's got a son that's playing college basketball, but it feels like he wants to play with his son, so bad example. But a guy, you get a son of a guy who's super rich. That son can also now profit off of his own names, where he can make a ton of money. Where like the idea of going to the NBA isn't quite as appealing. Where it's like, why don't I just stick around and I can make $700,000 a year playing college basketball. Money's not everything because my dad's already, I've grew up around money. I don't really need that much more money. And then he sticks around because there's hashtag unfinished business. You get a deal of a guy that like never can quite get over the hump, and he wants to win but it is probably going to have to come from someone who grows up in a culture where they like really value college basketball. There's that too. Cause I like, it has to be someone who like grows up in Kentucky or something and always dreamed of winning a title for the Cats, or, grew up in Kansas or grew up, in North Carolina. I do think there is a way. It's more likely than I think most people would say it is, but it's got to be like those sort of circumstances, because I think it can happen though. I have faith. We have to believe. I have no choice but to believe, TJ.
Christian Brown Stan on Twitter said, "What would Nikola Jokic average if you dropped him onto a college team right now, and what school would you put him at?"
Sorry, I had to blow my nose. How many points would he average on a college team right now? 40 minutes in a game. I don't think it's unreasonable to say he's averaging close to 40. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think at a certain point, he's not going to play every minute because they're going to be dominating everybody. I say he's averaging close to 40. What team would Jokic, when I think of Jokic playing in college, what team do I see him on? Honestly, probably Ohio State, TJ. I probably, I really think that. No, it's Gonzaga too obvious of an answer? Like, does that feel? I mean, like Gonzaga, it's not just that he's a foreign basketball player in Gonzaga, like,
yeah,
for the longest time, like had that market locked up. But Gonzaga offense is like, when you think of just like up and down, fun, move the ball type offense, it's Gonzaga. Like Villanova is a fun offense, but Villanova doesn't really suit Jokic. Like if Jokic was on Villanova, that would be like playing for Jay Wright in Villanova. That would be so freaking fun to watch. But I feel like he's a Gonzaga. You put him on that 2017 Gonzaga team instead of Karnowski. It's the greatest college basketball team of all time. That's the best college basketball team that's ever existed. That's my dream. Is I want Jokic on that 2017 Gonzaga team, and Karnowski comes off the bench, and then I guess Zach Collins is just like not even on the team at that point. I guess we just go down the depth chart, and the guy who actually like made the NBA is just not even on the team at all. So, yeah.
Jokic would look good in gray too.
Yeah, I feel like he seems destined to play like a smaller school too. That's the other part.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't feel like a Duke or Kentucky or Carolina guy. He does feel like a Gonzaga guy, or like a Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
He's played in front of those Grand Canyon maniacs, and they're just tripping balls watching Jokic. waddle up and down the court. Now, what would be the funniest? Would be the funniest place that Jokic could have played college basketball would have been, I don't know, like St. John's or something. I don't know why that comes.
I just
to
think the
mind.
concept of him being in like a big city like that doesn't make a lot of sense visually. Like if he played at like Miami or something.
UConn doesn't really make sense. Like he feels like he seems like underrated is the pairing of Jokic's personality with the fan base in Denver that a lot of people doesn't think exists, and the people that even know that it exists knows that fan base to just be chill. You know, like they're just a bunch of chill people that want to smoke weed and hike and eat trail mix. You know, like that's the Denver way of life. So Jokic, it doesn't really fit to me that Jokic would play for a fan base that is just rabid, you know, like insane and just like booing their coach when they lose 2 games and like, you know, so maybe like Jokic on like UConn would be funny. Jokic playing for Dan Hurley and the UConn fans. that feels like a mismatch in personalities. That Jokic and UConn. Yeah, but I think Gonzaga is the answer. I would have specifically the 2017 Gonzaga team. Put him on that team. So, all right, that was fun. Or the 2020 Gonzaga team would be fun too.
Yeah. You mentioned UConn. We could end on this one. Alex on Twitter asked who's winning the championship next year and why is it UConn again?
It's not UConn. I think I might be talking myself into Purdue, dude. I think I might
got the storyline, right?
They got the storyline, and I think so. The thing about Purdue, Zach Edey's not going to be any shorter, or Zach Edey's not going to be any smaller.
Imagine he came back next year, he was 6 inches shorter somehow.
Every single time this man takes the floor next season, he's going to be just as big as he was every single game this season.
Yeah.
He's going to be just as like that's not going to go away. That's going to be a constant that you're going to have answer for him every single game. And last year, the answer was making the freshman guards shoot themselves in the foot. And I think they're going to be better. I think those guards are going to be better. And I think they got good recruits coming in. I think the guards are going to be a year older. They don't have to have all-world guards to win a national championship. They just have to have competent guys. They have to have guys that can hit open shots. And they have the story, dude. There's something to that. There really is. Like I don't think it's if you're playing like the mystical angle that like somehow Purdue is because Virginia did it, that means Purdue is going to do it. That's obviously bullshit. But if you're saying like they're extra motivated, or I think what helped Virginia, and I don't even think this, I know this to be true because the guys who were on both teams said as much. I think when you hit rock bottom and you see the boogeyman going into the next year's tournament, you have nothing to be scared of. There is no tight butthole basketball being played because you're like, we've already, like, what could Purdue do next year in the tournament that would be humiliating? If they lose to a 16 seed,
yeah,
it doesn't even hurt. It's like, we've already been here. So I think you go into next year's tournament way looser than everybody else. Every other 1 seed has tight buttholes. You don't, because you're like, we're playing with house money. Because that's what happened with Virginia when they were down at halftime to Gardner-Webb in year 2 in the 16-1 game. And I think I really do think that if that game happened before they had lost to UMBC, it maybe something different happens in the second half. But I really do feel like they were like, at halftime, let's just take a deep breath. We're fine. You know, who cares? We've already, like, even if it happens, like, we've all already felt that before. We've seen the boogeyman. We came out the other side. We know it's fine. I think Purdue. I think I'm picking Purdue. I think there's nothing that could go wrong, TJ, with this Purdue team. It's either Purdue or Duke with Filipowski back. I think those are the 2 teams that you have to look at and say nothing can go wrong for them. Everybody's going to be on Kansas, though, right? Kansas.
So I'm looking at their lines. There really isn't an overwhelming favorite. Kansas is the favorite.
Kansas is the favorite.
But they're a favorite at 10-1.
Yeah.
So there is no real favorite.
Because I think that's just modern college basketball. There's so many transfers, like, because you think that Kansas is going to be good, but it's like you can't just bring in Hunter Dickinson and assume that you're going to get the same production from Hunter Dickinson when you have all these other, like, how are Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams going to play together? And like, what? There are a lot of questions still with transfers. Is number 2 Duke?
Yes, 11-1.
3 is Purdue. 3 has to be Purdue.
Tied for third is Purdue at 14-1. Who are they tied with?
Michigan State?
No.
Marquette?
No.
It's got to be like a blue blood then, like Kentucky?
No. It is a blue blood.
Carolina?
But I guess I would argue they're a blue blood. No.
Yeah, UCLA. Who is it? Who am I not
UConn, 14-1.
Oh, the team that inspired this question in the first place. I think UConn's gonna be good, but I think they're gonna lose too. They've lost too much.
Michigan State 15-1, Houston 20-1, Marquette 22-1, Arizona 25-1, Arkansas, Creighton, Kentucky, North Carolina, Texas, Alabama.
Interesting.
There's still so much in motion with. I feel like, I don't know if this is right or not, but it feels like this year in college basketball more than ever, there's still so many guys that don't have teams right now.
Yeah,
and there's guys like still on the move. Yeah,
Javon Quinterly is the first guy that I remember to ever put out a graphic announcing that you're back, and then also announce you're transferring in the same offseason when there wasn't a coaching change.
Yeah,
there was no. He said he was back at Bama, and then I don't know what the hell happened, but he's on the market.
Yeah. Paul Mulcahy's at Xavier today.
Sad.
So sad. He's going to Notre Dame.
All right. Well, that was a fun show. We're off next week. We're off for the holiday. I'm going to Colorado. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun weekend in Colorado. I'm doing the Dead Company Blink 182 doubleheader. And also, we're throwing a Rockies game in the mix, which the Rockies are just talk about a joke of a baseball franchise. It's a fun time though, man. I enjoy Coors Field. It's always a fun time there. I'm gonna yell. I have one thing I want to do while I'm there, TJ. I just think I want to get a picture with the mascot, so I'm gonna be yelling the mascot's name as loud as I possibly can.
He's a big dinosaur, yes. He's like a stegosaurus of some sort.
Yeah, his name is Dinger. So
Nice.
I'm just gonna yell Dinger. And do you remember this story, right? That might be my favorite dumb news story that's in the last 10 years. So good. But yeah, everybody enjoy the 4th. What do you have any 4th plans? Do you have like a consistent like on the 4th? This is what I do. You will if you find me on the 4th not doing this, then you know that something's wrong.
The weekdays next week are 5 of the 10 weekdays I get to not go to work of the year, so I'll probably be asleep or playing Zelda for the entirety of those days.
That counts for something, dude. That's something.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll be face down or playing Zelda.
What is it about the 4th that you just want to get on the water? You don't have that? Do you feel like you want to?
It's one of my biggest character flaws. I think
I know you're scared of the open ocean, but like a lake.
Yeah, I don't like. I like pools. I don't like sand, and I don't like salt water. I hate the feeling of sand on me, and I hate the feeling of being like dirty from the ocean or a lake. And that's just something about me that I have to live with every day.
I'm trying to think through how we can solve this.
I'm fine going to the pool, splashing around, maybe going to a water park or something. I liked water parks way more than roller coasters as a kid. Couldn't do roller coasters at all. Was fine with any degree of water slide. But something about being all sandy and dirty and I don't know. I don't like it at all.
Okay, I think there's a world where we can make you a lake guy. I think there's a world where now Lake Michigan is a little ambitious because it's so big that it feels like an ocean. So like some of the things going through your head about being, I don't know if you're scared of the ocean or whatever, but like
no, I just feel icky after I get out of the ocean, and then I'm covered in sand and sludge and shit.
I was gonna say there might be a world where we can like find like a lake in like Wisconsin or something.
I do like a boardwalk though. That's the weird. I don't like being in the water, but I do love playing games on the boardwalk.
Okay.
I'm fine with the environment. I just like, I don't know. I don't want sand on my feet.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the 4th, but most people just like want to get out on the water, and I don't know. That's something. That's how you know you're American. That should be the citizenship test.
Yeah.
Forget like asking all these questions about our history and how our government works. Just be like, it's July 4th. What do you do? And if they answer, I want to blow shit up and I want to be on the water, stamp it, say welcome to America, you're in. Yeah, everybody have a fun 4th. Do not blow too much shit up. Are you a fireworks guy, TJ?
Sure. They weren't legal to buy in New Jersey growing up, but they're a fun time.
Yeah, I don't like setting them off. I like watching them though. I'm not. That's just a slippery slope. If you start to become the pyro man, that's like setting off fireworks, illegal fireworks, like in your backyard. That's just a lot of responsibility if something goes wrong. I don't want that. I like to egg everyone else on though. I'm like, yeah, you should totally point that firework at your buddy's, point that bottle rocket at your buddy's dick, dude. Nothing can go wrong. Shoot it off. Go.
ESPN just dropped their top 100 rankings. Dylan Harper, new number 1.
There we go. That's it. I have no more shout-outs. I'm going to Colorado. Enjoy the holiday. We'll be back on the 10th. I'm on the fence about whether I'm going to go to Summer League, actually. I thought I was going to go to Summer League, but some stuff is falling through, so I don't know if I'm going to go, but I'm going to watch, if nothing else. Wembanyama, Vic said he's playing, but I keep seeing that he's playing in these like headlines about how he's not playing in something else. So it's like he's not playing in the World Cup, but he is playing in Summer League. And then I just saw the headline today, he's not playing in Sacramento, which is like this pre-Summer League. But he is still playing in Summer League. So I'm cautious. I don't know. Hopefully he does play, but we'll be back on the 10th. We're going to take all of next week off, and then we'll come back and have some fun. And then I'm going to move across the country, and that'll be that. So enjoy the 4th of July, everybody. Have a great break. We'll see you on the other side.